Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for your time. Tonight, I want to talk about humility. Now, when I speak about humility, I'm not speaking in the position of success, like, look at me, I'm so humble, my whole life reflects it. Actually, I'm speaking about humility in a position of failure. Because of my pride, I have affected past relationships, and I hate my pride. But I'm learning about humility. So when it comes to relationships, I'm not just talking about a relationship in regards to a couple. It could be any relationship, parents and children, children with their parents, siblings, cousins. Pride destroys relationships. And you got to ask yourself, is it really worth holding on to your pride? You're going to find yourself alone in life if you keep holding on to your pride. When it comes to relationships, I just want to talk about 4 scenarios that are so typical, so common. And first scenario is sometimes in a relationship, if somebody's treating us a certain way and they're not treating us good or sweet or kind, a lot of times our pride tends to want to respond to them the same way. Humility can save us from that grief, because if one person is mistreating the other and the other as a response is mistreating the other person, that relationship is headed for disaster, destruction, and it will end. And it's going to end painfully. And it's going to take years, maybe years, for one day us to open our eyes and look back and think, was it really worth holding on to our pride when we could have had humility? And so if you're in a situation right now where maybe one party is not treating you good, I know our pride wants to take over and defend ourselves and treat them the same way they're treating us, but that's going to destroy a relationship, and it's not worth it. Life is short. So I want to encourage you to practice humility in regards to, if they're treating you wrong, humble yourself and treat them right, not because they deserve it, because obviously they don't, because it's the right thing to do, and that's the only way that that relationship has a chance of repairing itself. Another one is sometimes we don't have the humility to ask for let me repeat that. Sometimes we don't have the humility to apologize when we're in the wrong. And oftentimes we see that in relationships where people ignore it. People deny that they're in the wrong. People justify the wrong instead of just realizing that what we did really, truly, sincerely brought hurt to the other party. And just humbling ourselves and say, you know what? I did wrong. I said this and it was wrong, and I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And a lot of times when you have relationships, whatever relationship we're talking about, when a party does wrong, a party holds on to the pride and just will not allow themselves to soften up and just say, I was wrong. And once again, because of the lack of humility, when relationships or the parties involved in a relationship cannot acknowledge when they're in the wrong, this relationship is going to die eventually. And if they're still together as maybe a family or a husband and wife or whatever, they may physically be together, but the relationship is dead. And so humility can save a relationship. Hey, we're all going to go through life, and we're going to make mistakes, and we're going to do things that are not right at times. And we just got to have the humility to say, hey, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Humility can save a relationship. Another point is, sometimes when somebody does apologize, humility will say, you're forgiven. I accept it. Let's learn from it, and let's move on. But pride would like to drag it out for a while. And sometimes people, even though the other party is saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, sometimes people have so much pride that instead of just humbling themselves and accepting forgiveness with the intent to make things better, they just drag it out. And that gets exhausting. And you could drag it out because of pride, and that's going to be another recipe for disaster in that relationship. All these things that I'm talking to you about are things that I experienced personally, that I was guilty of, and it cost me my relationship. But I'm learning, I'm growing, I want God to break my pride, and trust me, He has. There's a story in the Bible where the king Nebuchadnezzar, because he was so proud, God allowed him for 7 years to eat grass like an animal. His toenails and fingernails and hair grew like an animal, and for 7 years he ate grass until the 7 years transpired. God allowed his sanity to come back, and he recognized that it's all God. And sometimes I feel like me. That's the natural tendency that I have. But I want God to break my pride, because I want to have sensitivity toward people's pain. I want to have sensitivity toward people's love. I want to have sensitivity. I want to have a tender heart. I want to have a heart that's tender. Anyway, third point. Actually, my last point. And the fact is, humility allows us to be vulnerable and not always on the defense. Sometimes when we have pride inside of our heart, when somebody opens their mouth right away without even trying to listen with the intent to understand wholeheartedly, right away we're on the defense, because the pride has just built and been instilled in us, and we're on the defense. How can a relationship prosper when we're constantly always on defense mode, not even having an opportunity to listen to somebody express what's going on inside of them? We're always on the defense. So I just want to encourage you. Learn from me in a position of failure. All I can talk about are insights that I received through my failure. Learn from me. Practice humility. Practice humility, because humility can save relationships. Otherwise, if we want to hold on to our pride, we're going to find ourselves one of these days at a certain age where we're all alone, because we allow pride to crumble the relationships that God blessed us with. Hey, it's not easy. Not saying it is. But let's both practice together. Have a good night.